Hello everybody, welcome to the Anti-Social Media YouTube channel where I take the piss out of the latest conservative and far-right fails. Sometimes it's a weekly thing, but at the moment it may turn into a daily thing because something magical has happened. GB News has finally launched and oh my god, it's a comedy goldmine. It's an absolute shit show from start to finish. It's like a gift from the gods, honestly, for satire. Now I'm going to take the piss out of a section of Andrew Neil's very first show on GB News. It's called, believe it or not, the section is called, and I'm not making this shit up, it's called Woke Watch. Yes, he is a grown man, a grown middle-aged man, and he's got a section like that on his show. And it's him talking to another guest about how horrible and woke things are, which is never really defined as what that word means, because as we all know, it's fucking meaningless. It's anything that pisses them off nowadays, isn't it? Now I've got to say before this starts that the editing on this video is piss poor. Whoever has taken this from GB News and uploaded it to YouTube has fucked about with it a little bit. And there are some amazingly funny fuck-ups from the graphics department as well. See if you can spot them. They're quite subtle, okay? And also, I must say, please, if you're not a regular viewer, if you're like a conservative or far-right person who's come here from Twitter because you've seen this video advertised, and you know, I know what you're like. You've got very little patience for anyone with the opposite opinion of you. That's fine. That's why GB News exists, right? But there's a big reveal in this video. So if you just watch a little bit and then skip to the end, you know, after you get the idea of what's happening, just skip to the end to see quite a big reveal.
Woke Watch, and we start on an optimistic note.
Is it you're not going to piss and moan about a bunch of trivial things whilst getting more and more angry before declaring that the left are the real snowflakes?
There was a time when... There was a time when...
I don't know why, but Andrew Neil sounds pissed. He sounds drunk as fuck during this entire interview. The first show he's done, and he's so embarrassed about what his life has led to that he's just got tanked up before the show starts. I don't know what's going on.
There was a time when the job of the police was simple. Keep us safe, catch the bad guys. But in recent years, they've become more like social workers in uniform, guardians of political correctness, arbiters of our thoughts.
Does he mean like that Tom Cruise movie where he sees crimes in your mind before they actually happen? Is that what he's actually saying there? By the way, social workers in uniform would actually stop people from saying defund the police. Trust me, that's true if you are a conservative watching. You just have to Google it. It's too long to go into. But okay, I'll do a little role play for you so you understand. Hey Johnson, this black, this is a policeman. There's a black fella over there. He's clearly suffering from mental illness and he's lashing out a bit. You know, I've noticed that too, Johnson. But should we talk to him calmly like we did to that white fella the other day and everything worked out nicely? What am I, Johnson? A social worker? No, let's hit him with our massive truncheons like we always have done in the past. That'll get him to stop. But that might cause some kind of race-related riot, Johnson. Are you sure that's a good idea? It'll only lead to people kneeling and protesting, and God, that'll end up on a program like Woke Watch. It's going to be so embarrassing for us. Nope, let's hit him with these fucking massive sticks and just hope that no one learns a thing from this situation. Those were incredible graphics. Did you spot them?
It sometimes seems that they spend more time policing what we post on Twitter than they do patrolling the streets.
Well, maybe if the Tories haven't cut the police numbers by over 20,000, then maybe there would be more bobbies on the beat. Oh, of course you're not going to mention that, are you?
Only a few months ago, Merseyside Police mounted a campaign warning that being offensive is an offence.
Your piss-poor graphics department is an offence, that's for sure.
Which clearly it isn't. Being offensive is not very nice, but it's not necessarily illegal. It didn't take long for the Merseyside Constabulary to realise how stupid they looked, and the campaign was quietly dropped. But it was typical of much of today's right-on policing. So Stephen Watson, the new Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, is a real breath of fresh air. Is being put at risk by making common cause with campaign groups, by, for example, taking the knee or wearing rainbow shoelaces.
All right, okay, are you sitting down for this? Wearing shoelaces is woke now, yeah? You can add that to the list of 1 billion things that are woke, okay? You cannot accuse anybody, ever, of being easily offended if you yourself are angered by a person wearing colourful shoelaces. Get a fucking grip.
He believes the public's tolerance of what
I swear to God, I didn't do anything here. That is how they uploaded it to the GB News YouTube channel. Like that.
he would take the knee in uniform. He said, no, I absolutely would not. I'd probably kneel before the Queen, God, and Mrs. Watson. That's it.
Well, fuck my arse. What a revelation. A policeman who doesn't think that Black Lives Matter. Well, blow me down. That must be the first ever cop in history with that kind of mindset. Breaking news, everybody. People who hate non-white people and like hitting them with truncheons might not have their best interests at heart. Shocker.
Mr. Watson has a tough job on his hands. When it comes to dealing with crimes, Manchester Police don't have a stellar record. But he's promised to restore confidence by investigating every crime, however minor, banning the recent fashion for screening out weak cases, and restoring neighbourhood policing, or what we used to call Bobby's on the beat.
Presumably this guy would do that by having a sex change and transitioning into Priti Patel, the person responsible for putting extra police people on the beat.
He certainly gives great quotes.
Now, guys, are you ready for this great quote? Are you sitting down for this great quote? Here it comes. Are you ready?
I mean, whether it be through adulterating the uniform, he said, with pins and tabs and badges or whatever, and having all manner of florid social media accounts, these are all things which I think leave the public cold. And I just personally don't think they have a place in policing. He said all that to the Telegraph.
What a great quote, Andrew. Please tell me you've got another one.
Here's another quote from him. I think we're past the high water mark. The public are getting a little bit fed up of virtue signalling police officers when they really rather we just locked up burglars. So
that was another great quote, and it's so great to see it flash up on the screen there for 0.0001 milliseconds.
Oh, is Stephen Watson an unrepresentative blast from the past or the new shape of things to come in policing? I'm joined by Andrew Doyle.
Okay, everybody, stop what you're doing. If you're not watching the screen, look at the screen directly now, and you're just about to see this most freakiest of edits, this crazy shot that they have to introduce the guest. There's no way to describe it.
Andrew Doyle, presenter of Free Speech Nation here on GB News. Andrew, thanks for being with us. So what is he? Are things changing, or is this just a one-off?
I think he's read the
Give him a microphone.
public mood very, very well on this one.
A microphone.
But actually, we shouldn't underestimate how difficult it is for people in authority like him.
Give him a microphone.
They are under a lot of pressure to be seen to be going along with these kind of social justice causes and these kind of things that you've mentioned, like the rainbow shoelaces or dressing police cars up like they're at Mardi Gras or something like that. And
God forbid that cops spend one day of the year looking approachable.
actually, the public don't really like this. Doesn't work well with the public. They don't want that. They don't want to be hectored and lectured to. They want the police to solve crimes. And
Now, before we go on, here's a bit of background about Andrew Doyle, okay? He is a comedian, and from what I heard from people who I respect, he's quite a good comedian, okay? Which is strange because he created that, can't remember the name, something like Titania McGrift, that character of a pretend woke person on Twitter who does pretty much similar material, and people have noticed that. So I, once upon a time, about a year ago, after Andrew Doyle did his one joke, I just contacted him and said, please, can you write a second joke? And he got quite pissy with me, and it ended up with him blocking me. And a lot of other people said, when are you going to write your second joke? And he blocked them too. So if this guy is ever on Woke Watch and talks about cancel culture, we know he's a little bit of a hypocrite in that department. He's also a really good friend with Sargon of Akkad, so I'm sure any political opinions he has, we can take very seriously. And there's no doubt about it, in every picture I've ever seen him, he looks like a real happy bunny. So I'm sure he's full of the joy of spring outside of GB News.
the public don't really like this. Doesn't work well with the public. They don't want that. They don't want to be hectored and lectured to. They want the police to solve crimes. And
I was lectured to because a policeman wore some colourful shoelaces. What the fuck does that mean? It's like the shoes are saying, guys, please be seated as I tell you the definitive history of the homosexuals.
every time you see like a TikTok video with police officers dancing or them dressed up in the sort of gay pride colours, and they also see knife crime on the rise, people are thinking, well, maybe the priorities are slightly out of whack here. So
I know a lot of men aren't very good at multitasking, but if a policeman cannot dance and fight knife crime at the same time, then what good is he, eh? If you can't calypso and stop a mugging, then you're a piece of shit in my eyes. Now imagine you're a criminal, right, and you're being chased by a cop who's wearing an unbuttoned floral style shirt, very, very garish, right? And underneath that is a t-shirt with a slogan on it that says, "I love bumming." And he's just sort of mincing towards you really, really quickly, and he catches you and stops you from doing a crime, right? You'd be so embarrassed about that story that you have to tell people that you would stop being a criminal, wouldn't you? Is that what you're against, Andrew? You actually want a higher crime rate? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's why he's made these statements, and good on him.
Why did the police get into this position in the first place? What was it about police training, the police cadet schools, what the senior officers were being taught that got the police into a situation where they were kind of on the cutting edge of political correctness?
Well, what the police commissioner chap actually said was, and I quote, "We're going to give all of you cops rainbow shoelaces, and now people will think it's to support the gay community." No. But really, it's to make middle-aged, red-faced grown men cry, right? They will be so unhappy that they'll never leave the house ever again. And as a result, burglaries will go down because there's always someone inside the house to sort of put off the burglar. Yeah, genius, right? Now, these guys are so busy shouting at an inanimate object on the internet that they haven't got time to shout at their own wives. So domestic abuse goes down as well. But will these men thank us? Will they fuck? But it's the thought that counts. Now put those shoelaces on.
That got the police into a situation where they were kind of on the cutting edge of political correctness?
This is a very good question. I think a lot of it comes from the training. If you go to the College of Policing current guidelines, you'll see that they still have a section about non-crime hate incidents. You know, it has become, there's certainly a perception within the police force that part of their job is in fact to police people's morality and the things that people say. You know, between 2014 and 2019, we had over 120,000 arrests, recorded incidents of non-crime.
Wait. Those two things are completely different.
According to the Times, every year we have 3,000 people are arrested for offensive things they say online.
And do you know what type of meat these people will resemble?
These aren't negligible figures. This is quite a lot. They're spending a lot of time on this stuff.
Now, it always amazes me when gammons say people are being arrested for so-called online hate crimes. But we should be able to say and do whatever we want. Hang on. Are you wearing rainbow shoelaces? No, that shouldn't be allowed. Stop it. It's wrong on so many levels.
And you see the police occasionally tweeting out, saying things like, "Be careful what you say, don't upset anyone, or we might visit you this weekend." That came from Glasgow police.
Now, what you've got to watch out for on programmes like this is they're going to rarely ever flash up any evidence of what they're saying on the screen or direct you towards any links of what they're saying. And this is not just because the graphic department don't know their arse from their elbow. It's because the things they are saying rarely happen, if ever. Let's investigate what he's saying there. Police Scotland has been mocked on Twitter over its attempts to warn social media users about the importance of, quote, safe internet use. That's posted on the 1st of April 2016. So the one example that Andrew Doyle has given, was from over 5 years ago. So he's mad about one tweet from over half a decade ago. You're basing the first ever Woke Watch segment on the brand new Pound Shop Fox News channel on a thing that is no longer relevant. You big crybaby, you lazy bastard, you desperate grifter.
So people see all of this stuff, and I think it does come from the training, and I think the Merseyside story that you mentioned is very revealing, because those police officers were standing in front of a billboard, a digital billboard that said being offensive is an offence, in massive letters with the big rainbow flag. Now that didn't just appear overnight. It wasn't just one overzealous rogue police officer.
It had to go through a process.
There was a process.
Budgets had to be approved.
Yeah.
Senior people signed it off.
Well, they would have discussed the wording. They would have said, this wasn't something that came out of the blue. What I find a little bit scary about that is I recognise what you say, that of course they did backtrack eventually and say, actually, being offensive isn't necessarily an offence. But actually, technically, it is.
Now, you listen up, Buster. You listen up, and you listen up good. being offensive isn't an offence, but if you wear rainbow shoelaces in front of a digital sign, then I swear to God, being offended will be an offence. Because I'm so fucking angry right now. For reasons that are so complicated that I'm conveniently not going to reveal them. Yeah. I knew you were on my side. Look, all you need to know is that pots at the end of the rainbow don't exist, and Bungle looks cuddly, but he's actually quite ferocious. He's a wild animal.
Actually, being offensive isn't necessarily an offence, but actually, technically, it is. You know, we have the 2003 Communications Act, and that makes absolutely clear that the judgment is that if you send something that is, quote unquote, grossly offensive, you can land up in prison or with a criminal record. So actually, being offensive in this country is an offence in some circumstances. And this is something that's happened to the police. And this is something we're going to have to unravel in whatever way we can.
Firstly, I need to say that the full political spectrum criticised the police on this matter because it was a full statement that they made, and they made it look like it was coming in conjunction with LGBT charities and organisations, right? But you left out that bit. It's not important. It's not. You left out that major factor. But secondly, even people that you despise, Andrew, mocked the police, including that Femi guy who makes you shit your own colon whenever he's mentioned. Thirdly, the Communication Act isn't just about offensive tweets. It's about grossly offensive tweets, which, to be fair, does sound the same. And in the hands of a grifter, that could be used in a let's say a not so honest way. Andrew Doyle. But what it means as grossly offensive, it means death threats and rape threats and things like that. Not regular offensive tweets like someone coming along and asking you to write a second joke and then you block them because you're slightly miffed. Not that kind of offensive. There's a difference between grossly offensive and offensive. Offensive is someone tweeting you and saying something like you're a sour-faced, ignorant, bootlicking, facile, gormless, shit-for-brains, shameless grifter cunt. Grossly offensive, it's much, much worse.
I mean, we have had Priti Patel saying that she's instructed the College of Policing to stop telling the police that they need to record non-crime. That's a step in the right direction. It's still on their website. I had a look today, so I don't know whether that's something they're going to go along with. But how we tackle the culture within the police where they think their job is moral guardianship rather than the traditional role of policing, I don't know.
Remember, this whole section on the Woke Watch is based on two instances of police tweeting. One of them from 5 years ago, which isn't even relevant, and it's based all upon rainbow shoelaces. It's so easy to be a grifter, isn't it? I mean, you couldn't make this up, is a thing that people say, but they have.
Is it sometimes thought in the police that this is also the way to promotion? That if you take these lines, you'll get on, you'll get promotion,
Possibly.
That you'll get support from certain quarters of the community?
I've lost count of the amount of drag queens, trans people and flamboyant homosexuals in the upper echelons of the police. It must be the handcuffs that attract them to the job. It's got to be.
I think that's probably the case in most major industries and institutions these days.
Yes, and if you fit in with gay people, you'll only end up getting crowned Queens of England. I'm not quite pleased with that pun if no one else is.
I think people think that unless they are seen to toe the ideological line on these particular issues, that they're shooting themselves in the foot.
No, you'll get blood all over those rainbow shoelaces.
I think that's absolutely the case. I think a lot of this is what we call preference falsification. People are saying what they think the popular opinion is and not really what they actually think.
Public opinion, generally, gays are okay. Real opinion, gays are not okay? Who says that?
And that's why I think it's so refreshing when you get someone like Chief Constable Watson, who's just saying what he sincerely believes, and and it resonates with people.
Yeah.
What people?
Maybe we just need more people like him to be a little bit braver.
Is there another one that's put his head above or her head above the parapet?
Well, I mean, there are people doing it all the time.
But I mean a police chief.
And not that I've come across.
Oh, pardon?
You know, certainly not one that's made the headlines. I mean, that's why this has become a big story.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to make you research beyond a sort of sensational headline now, would we?
Because you don't hear it very often because police know that they mustn't. There was one story last year of a police officer who emailed her boss to say, well, I've got gender critical feminist views. Is that going to be an issue? And they said, yes, it will be an issue. So, it's very much...
don't come.
So in other words, don't bother.
Hear me out here, Andrew. Maybe the police are apprehensive to employ TERFs because the police want to be seen as inclusive. You know, like wearing colourful shoelaces and saying horrible things like gays are okay.
I mean, this is very much the thing that's happening. It's not just the police, by the way. I mean, I've got lots of friends who are in the teaching profession, for instance, and they send me sort of WhatsApp messages about all the things they've got to teach during Pride Month, and they're saying, we don't really go along with this. I've got to put the rainbow flag everywhere to show that I'm an ally.
Oh no, not on the flags too. They'll be putting rainbows on Skittles next to monsters.
You know, the thing that people forget is most people's default expectation of the police and teachers and everyone really is that you don't have a problem with gay people. You're not a racist. You know, that should be the default expectation. And I think a lot of people in the police and these institutions feel that unless they're continually signalling that they're opposed to racism and opposed to homophobia, we might assume otherwise. Well, I wouldn't assume otherwise.
Absolutely.
And I don't think most people would.
Now, I did promise you a twist at the end of this video if you did stick around, and here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, the guy who was interviewed there, Andrew Doyle, is a homosexual. Yes. Like Candace Owens is to black people, Andrew Doyle seems to be doing that for the gays. So here's a little quiz for people in the comments section. A little bit of fun, guys, right? If Candace Owens is called things like Uncle Tom for the things that she does, what would Andrew Doyle be called? What is the gay equivalent of an Uncle Tom? Just drop your answers below in the comment section. And also, let me just say thank you very much. You're watching Anti-Social Media YouTube channel, and there are plenty of videos about the latest conservative and far-right fails. Obviously, there's a 22-minute video I made called Will GB News Be a Huge Failure?, where I'm so very pleased that it has arrived, and there are 5 reasons in that video why it could crash and burn very, very soon indeed. So do check that out if you haven't seen it. It's very funny, very informative. Remember, I've got videos such as Defund the BBC Will Never Happen and Here's Why. I've got a couple of videos about Lawrence Fox, one about his doomed election attempt and one about his grift with Martin Daubney, of course, where they always attack Sadiq Khan and I just completely tear apart their entire grift operation. You can watch all those videos as part of my Gammon Box playlist. The link to that is below, so you can just watch all those videos lined up one after the other if you want. And finally, do like and subscribe if you like this kind of stuff, and share it on social media, because as you can probably see, this is a tiny channel and I can use all the support I can get. And until next time, thank you very much for watching, and laters, baters.